G'day guys, Mac with The Outer Circle, and in this episode of Getting Started in the Horus Heresy, we're going to be looking at plastic and Forge World miniatures that you might not have considered, or maybe you did, that you can utilise for building your commanders or specialist units in 30k. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I've noticed a trend lately with the release of Argyle Tal and others that some of the legions are starting to get favoured a lot more than others. And with that in mind, I thought it'd be a great idea to go out and actually look at what we can do with some of the kits that are already out there. Now, bear in mind, I understand 3D printing is out there, and it's an absolutely fantastic resource. I utilise it myself quite a bit now. But I will save a video talking about 3D printed parts and that kind of thing for another time. What I instead want to focus on today is what is available directly through Games Workshop stores, because not everyone has access to a 3D printer. Not everyone has the ability to just get online and order things willy-nilly. Some people, their only access is via third-party retailers and Games Workshop themselves. If that is the instance, this is kind of their option. So this episode will look at that. I'll also do another episode looking at things like the Mechanicum, Solar Auxilia, Imperial Militia, Demons of the Ruinstorm. That'll get its own episode. And then I'll go through and talk about third-party kits, 3D files, as their own separate videos. So, with all that in mind, we're going to start with Kill Team Cassius. So, the first few options that are going to be presented in this video are all options for miniatures which are sort of universal. And I've picked Kill Team Cassius first because a lot of this kit is useful. First of all, anyone who wants to do their own Knights Errant, you will find the Inquisitorial shoulder pads somewhat helpful. You'll also find that the amount of special weapons included in this kit is very handy. For instance, you want to make yourself an Armistice console. The bits are in here for it. If you want to make yourself a whole bunch of different legions, such as the Iron Hands, chronically underrepresented, you can do it in here. I mean, let's just go through some of our options. The Blood Angel in here. Nothing special as far as Blood Angels go, but he does have a pretty sweet backpack. Maybe you could use that backpack on one of the Forge World miniatures, such as the Console who's in Power Armor. Same thing with the Space Wolf, has some useful parts. Now, this model here is pretty much 30k ready. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the smoke grenade launcher thingy on the backpacks. I've never quite liked that look, but there's nothing stopping you from putting a different backpack on the miniature and utilising it that way. You don't even need to keep the Genestealer's head in Tactical Rock. You can just easily remove it from the base and plant his feet firmly on the ground. He's armed the way you would want a Raven Guard armed, and apart from the shoulder pad, it's pretty much how you'd expect a Heresy-era Raven Guard miniature to look. This model here is a personal favourite, and I've utilised it before. I had him drawing the Gladius from the sheath using the Forge World Mark III upgrades in order to make a Shadrach Medusan. But this is an excellent Iron Hand. Now, the armour plate looks a little bit like Mark 8 from the front, but once you get to the side, you realise he's actually in a very stylised sort of Mark III armour, with a very Mark 8 looking front, but yeah, it's very Heresy, really. The backpack doesn't matter, it looks Artificer. This guy, as far as it matters, could be a 30k miniature. Yeah, just change out the arm, file the little eye off the side of the combi bolter. This could be any 30k miniature you like. It could be a Siege Breaker, could be anyone armed with a combi melter. Or you could completely change out the arms like I did and make him to something else. But it gives you a fantastic looking miniature who stands out from the crowd for your Iron Hands. After that we get to the Salamander, who I'm not a big fan of this model as a rule, but again, has some promise. You could strip away the heavy flamer and the fuel packs. You could probably utilise the body in some capacity, or at least the head. The little pyre on the back, you could do something with it, I'm quite sure. And I mean, the heavy flamer, it's not exactly the worst. Of course, this miniature should have no introductions. I used it in my White Scars army, something that a lot of people copied since, and imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So, I actually used this miniature from the waist up and put him onto a Scimitar jet bike for my White Scars. You could also utilise a Shamshir jet bike if you're that way inclined. The only thing I did was filed off the little ridges of the Genestealer cult member's head, and it just looked like a weird abhuman's head then. Also, I didn't put on the 40k Deathwatch arm, but the eagle makes a perfect Cyberhawk. The shield looks good on the miniature as well, used as a combat shield. And the backpack, well, you don't need it if he's on a jet bike, so you can actually put it onto some other character who's on foot, and it helps to just sell those characters a little bit by adding a backpack, a bit of bling that's Legion specific. The Librarian, yes, he's Blood Ravens, but it's only a shoulder pad away from being a Blood Angel with that droplet, and with some creative painting on that droplet, you could paint a couple of little eyes onto it to look like a bird's beak. This could be a Raven Guard, Raven Guard Librarian. I almost said apothecary. That would have been silly of me. So, cool use of that model there. Then, of course, you've got Orden Cassius. Well, Cassius, he'll pop up again later, but great Ultramarines chaplain. And the beauty of it is, he's not forced to be a chaplain. Take away that left arm, replace it with a Gladius, and all of a sudden, hey, this is a console for your Ultramarines force. Maybe file the little eye off that book, or hell, keep it for all it matters. It's a cool backpack. I used his backpack and actually have this model sitting in my bits box, so I haven't used him yet, but I used the backpack on an Ultramarines Praetor. So by taking some of his parts and not necessarily putting them all on this miniature and spreading them out, I was able to make multiple characters. After that, of course, we get this Imperial Fist, who perhaps if you were to try and pick a miniature who could be your heavy weapons console, maybe this could be the option. He will stand out in the crowd. He won't blend in with the other heavy bolters when he's armed like this, will he now? Of course, this Ultramarine miniature here, I think is probably one of the weakest miniatures in the box, because it is just a tactical Marine at the end of the day, but backpack is useful. The bolt gun and arms could be useful for making a custom Knight Errant. The Dark Angel here, the legs are really weak on this. They're period authentic legs, yes, but they just don't suit the miniature very well. I'm not a big fan of this miniature. It feels very, I don't know, early 2000s, the pose and that. Could be better. And of course, Cyber Familiar. That's what I could use that Servo Skull for, and of course a teleport transponder. Lots of units do use them in 30k, or an objective marker. So lots you can do with the Kill Team Cassius. Going on from there, we have the Masters of the Chapter. So this is another one that's a pretty universal box. You basically have 4 characters in here. Yet, guy in the back left, you can see he's technically in a different mark of armor. Nobody's going to care when it's one model, especially if it's a character. A character you can get away with using the wrong type of power armor, and you just say, it's a unique pattern, or it's an Artificer variant. You stretch the realms of plausibility. Forge World does it all the time, you can too. Of course, a lot of the weapons on these miniatures, usually the weapon arms, can all be exchanged for something else. So consider having some different options on these guys. You're not limited to having, say, a Thunderhammer on the guy in the front. You could change that to a Power Fist, a Gladius. The options, up to you, what you do with these miniatures. But a great set of choices for filling out some of your console options and Legion commanders. My personal favourite is guy with the Power Sword and the Power Fist, holding his helmet. Perfect model for a Praetor with the Paragon Blade and Power Fist for the extra attack. Expensive option, but perfect for it. Going on from there, the Company Command. So, okay, a lot of 40k power armor in here, yes. But I counter with this. Apothecary in the back. The backpack and the Narcathium, or Narthesium, sorry. You can use those to create an Apothecary or a Primus Medicae. Bam, saves you going out and buying a Forge World pair of Apothecaries if you only need one. Also, the champion at the front there. Perfect for a Legion champion in 30k. The arms, the combat shield, most of the body. You could keep even the Mark 8 torso on the miniature with the large gorget around the neck. Nobody will care. Just give them a leg swap and you're pretty much there, and of course change out the shoulder pads for something else. Of course, the banner, another great example. The plastic banner has nothing on it. It's perfect for putting onto any other miniature. You could take the banner off this Marine in here and put it onto the guy with the Power Fist in here. and all of a sudden you now have a Legion Herald with a Power Fist, or something to that effect. And the guy in the very front of the squad, let's ignore all the special weapons and combi weapons you get in this box, the guy in the front of the squad there is in Mark 6 power armor, perfect commander for many forces, but especially something like the Raven Guard or the Alpha Legion. Some Legion-specific helmet or Legion-specific shoulder pads or weaponry, little bits hanging off the belt, whatever it might be, will really help to sell it. And of course, the Stern Guard Veteran Squad. So I picked these guys over the Vanguard Veterans, who are quite good as well, because you have a lot of older armor in here. You have 3 sets of legs that are all perfect for the Horus Heresy period, but on top of that, the other armor sets are not so terrible that you couldn't get away with them. You have specialist weapons in here, of course, combi weapons. You have a lot of shoulder pads that look very Heresy, Mark 3, Mark 4, and Mark 5/6 style shoulder pads, as well as there's helmets in there that are period authentic. And a choice of different bare heads or exposed heads. So it gives you a lot of options there when you're trying to convert up a host of different characters. Then we get to some of the Forge World guys. So Luft Huron. I think this is a beautiful model, and again, not technically period authentic Terminator armor, but who's going to care? Yep, he has a Crux Terminatus on his left shoulder pad. I myself have made a conversion of this model for use in 30k in one of my forces. You can change out the shoulder pad on the left-hand side for something else. I know the right-hand shoulder pad with the lion's head looks really, let's say it, that is perfect for Atramentar. So really good idea for Night Lords players to take a shoulder pad like that. And the Lightning Claw / Power Fist that he has in the right-hand side, well, there's an option for a Lightning Claw or a Power Fist. The choice is yours. You could completely do away with the left-hand arm if you wanted, and pretty much just replace that on this body, because he's very light on Astral Claw's iconography. You're pretty much there for a 30k miniature. And, keep the flamer on there if it's a Salamander. It's fun. Then we have Tiberius the Red Wake, another Forge World miniature. Starting to get a little bit on the scale creep side of things. He's a little bit tiny, especially considering Tiberius is meant to be a very large unit. But Tiberius the Red Wake, Chain Fists, Lightning Claws, obvious choices for him, but you could change out the arms completely. The shoulder pads, this is Heresy era Indominus armor that he's wearing, so perfectly accurate to the time period. The studs look fantastic. Friend of mine, John, he used a bunch of Tiberius the Red Wakes. I think he went and bought 5 of them to convert a custom Terminator squad for his World Eaters. So they have the lightning bolt motif on the chest, which looks very Heresy, lots of lightning bolts used for unification and such. And of course the studded shoulder pads and legs. It just beautiful, beautiful miniature. Then we get to some 40k Red Scorpions. Almost said Red Corsairs. But here you go. Yep, the banner is not ideal as far as a banner goes, but it's easy to cut the hand off. That could be a pistol pointing at an enemy, could be holding a shield. You could take the banner out of the plastic command squad kit. There's a lot you can do with it. But both these guys are in very stylized Mark 6 power armor. Mark 6 is going to be a very common pattern potentially going forward, with it looking like they're going to move to that armor mark for the plastic game. But these 2 miniatures here look like generic Praetors that suit anyone. Criminally underused, beautiful models. So, last of my list of sort of universal kits is the Librarian. Librarians are a miniature that really struggle to be looked after in 30k. Well, this model is literally a leg swap away from being in Mark 4 power armor. I know, because I have one sitting right in front of me as we speak. Leg swap to a spare set of Mark 3 or Mark 4 or even Mark 2 if you can find them, legs. This is a 30k Librarian. You're there, you're done. Change out his left shoulder pad for a Legion one, and maybe change out the head for another bare head or even a Legion helmet. Perfect. But I wouldn't put on the little Cyber Cherub. So from there, Cypher. Cypher, a excellent miniature for a Moritat, not just for his own legion, but for other legions. There's not a lot of Dark Angels iconography on him. One of the options I would suggest doing is using this as a basis for the Alpha Legion Sniper Exodus. Yep, some people will hate it, some people will love it, but it's an idea I thought would look cool because he has that sort of tattered survivor in the Wastelands look about him. Going on from there, Ezekiel, another great example of a librarian, and to be honest, you could almost get away with using him for other legions because he doesn't actually have that much Dark Angels iconography on him. He's from a time in 40k where you didn't have to put 80 of the Legion or chapter icon on someone for people to understand what faction they were from. So the actual iconography on the miniature, which marks him out as a Dark Angel, is actually very limited. Even the little sword and winged book you see on the front of him, painted gold instead of white, and it looks like just some generic Aquila book. It doesn't really look Dark Angels, and that works in his favour. So, really cool old miniature. Like many, getting a little old, scale crept, but I don't know. For me, I think it's a gorgeous model and a bit of nostalgia. Then you get Asmodai. So, Asmodai, Dark Angels Chaplain, just screams it, doesn't it? That's what he is, and it makes sense that that's what you'd use him for. But don't just stop at Chaplain. It doesn't have to be an interrogator chaplain. This could be a librarian. It could be a Moritat. Put a pistol in each hand. Your imagination is your limitation, not miniature in the case of miniatures like this. And on that same note, Dark Angels Chapter Ancient. Yeah, okay, the face, the helmet, it's a Mark 7 helmet. Just cut away a tiny bit of the bottom lip. It'll look like a Sarum pattern helmet. Simple. And you've got yourself a Legion Ancient or a Herald. So up to you what you do with it. Ancient, of course, being in the command squad and the Herald being the HQ option. Then we have the Dark Angels Interrogator Chaplain. I don't know that Croesus and Power Fist is my first combo I'd go to, but it's not a terrible combo. You could do it for a Chaplain. Again, don't feel like you have to do it. Maybe swap out the Croesus for something else, or even the Power Fist for something else. Very cool base for a miniature. I could almost see him, without the Power Fist, having a bolt gun in that hand, pointing it towards someone, because he's already looking in that direction. Then we've got some actual conversion parts. Dark Angels Upgrade Pack from 40k. So again, take that helmet with the wings on it, cut a tiny little bit out of that bottom lip, so remove the bottom lip off the helmet. It's a Sarum pattern helmet with wings. Beaky helmet, perfectly fine. The hooded head, perfectly fine. The iconography is usable. You can put some of those shoulder pads on your Legion commanders if you wanted, but I'd say the chest, the plasma pistol, the sword, and the little icons are all really cool little bits that you can use to flesh out something that's very vanilla feeling another character. So going on from there, the Emperor's Children, of course, the Noise Marine from the Chaos Space Marines range. Perfect if you need a HQ for your 3rd Company Elite. So this is a miniature I was tossing up using for my 3rd Company Elite Force if I go ahead and make it. So perfect for a console. You could do it something like a Master of Signals. How's he sending messages? Why he's guitaring those messages out to people. All you need to do is just get in there with the clippers, cut out that Primaris head from under his foot, replace it with something from the Horus Heresy or a tactical rock or a tree stump or whatever floats your boat. Perfectly cool miniature for that. Maybe change out the backpack for a more period authentic one. Don't feel that you have to. But this model will fit into 30k, especially for such a bizarre legion. Then there's Fabius Bile. This one here, change out the arms, change out the backpack. All of a sudden you have a basis for multiple legions, not just the Mad Surgeon. You could have the Apothecary from the Night Lords. You could have a character from the Night Lords wearing a old skin cloak. Of course, Emperor's Children character is another option that's available to you. You don't have to keep Fabius's head. If you're talented with green stuff and such, maybe you won't. You could always, of course, cut off the torso and utilize just the legs and have it as a leather waistcoat. if you're that way inclined. I probably wouldn't, but it is an option. The Georgian backpack that he's wearing, that could be put onto another character to create a Primus Medicae. So think outside the box with these miniatures. Another option here, Noise Marine Upgrade Pack. So perfect for your commanders in the Emperor's Children. Put some of these helmets or weird heads on there. Yep, you've got the Gimp suit. You're starting to get a bit of the flesh, the combat drugs, the cool noise backpacks. You're demonstrating the fact that some of these characters are going down that insanity route and have things like Sonic Shriekers. So really cool little bits. And then we get to the Space Wolves. Again, we have another set of bits here. The Frost Axe, the sword, the backpack, most of these shoulder pads, pretty much everything in this kit actually, usable to some degree to create characters within your Space Wolves force. Even if it's as simple as making squad sergeants just stick out a little bit. Of course, there's a lot of other useful Space Wolves characters. Najal, cool. Rune Priest in Terminator armor. It's an option to you. Yeah, okay, it's 40k power armor. No one's going to object to it if you call this Tartarus armor. Okay, especially not on a single character. Again, Artificer Tartarus armor, who cares, right? The point is, it's a character, he's going to stick out, he's going to look very Space Wolves, and the fur is way better than what they did over at Forge World. Same thing for Arjak Rockfist. Swap out the shield off the arm, put a Terminator firing combi bolter, maybe a combi melter, combi plasma, something like that in that hand instead. Perfect use for this miniature and will look great. The only thing I would do is file off the Crux Terminatus on the left hand shoulder pad and put a Legion icon in the bare place left behind. Apart from that, pretty much perfect. Maybe I'd also shave the Crux, the stylized Crux off the right shin on the miniature as well. Going on from there, of course, the Iron Priest. This is a Praevian. This is a Mortifactor console. This is a Forge Lord. So there's 3 different consoles you can create straight away with this miniature. Don't feel like you have to use that pistol either. Maybe he's not going to use that ice pistol. You could give him a hand flamer. You could give him a combi melter. Again, your imagination is your limitation. Even the axe that he's holding can be changed out for something else. Again, I have the miniature, but very Space Wolf. And you could even make 2 models from one with this. Take the backpack, put it onto another model. They then become the Forge Lord or something, and this guy here could become some other kind of bionic-filled commander. Choices are yours. Then, of course, there's Wolflord Crom, an aging miniature now, but Mark 6 power armor, nothing that ties him to 40k because everything's so stylized. You could rock this model as is for 30k. You could swap his head out for some other helmeted head option, perhaps. Perfectly cool, perfectly functional. Love it. Then we have Ulrich the Slayer, so another one, yeah, technically Mark 7 power armor, but if you told people that's stylized Mark 5, yeah, I'd buy it. Looks like it to me. Cool miniature. Apart from the 2 knee pads, you can't really tell it's anything other than a Heresy miniature. Go for it. Then we have the Grey Hunter with Wolf Standard. So this guy here, Legion Herald, straight away, or an Ancient. Parax, or is that a Paragon Blade? What you do with it, totally up to you. You could even utilize something like that banner, cut it off at the wrist, and utilize that in the White Scars force. Because they would have something like wolf banners. You could just quickly put a bit of green stuff to fill in anything on the surface that's sculpted into the banner. Bit of green stuff, sand it back, done. Or you could utilize it in a Lunar Wolves or a Sons of Horus force, that banner. I mean, a lot of the miniature could be useful depending on the Legion who chooses to utilize it. You file the little diamond-shaped jewels off his knee pads. Who's to say those runes aren't runes from another Legion, like maybe the White Scars? It could be turned into a White Scars miniature, especially if you replace the head with something less Space Wolf. Going on from there, we have the Master of Executions. Remove the Primaris head from the rear of this model, or just outright swap the backpack to something else. Maybe get a little bit of putty, fill in the little holes in the front of those cables there. This would be an excellent World Eaters or Night Lords miniature. You could use that as a headsman's axe that he's holding, that gigantic axe, because obviously he is an executioner, so it ties in nicely. You don't have to use that head either. There are plenty of other options available out there. And like everything on this list, the limitations are entirely within your mind of what you can do with these miniatures. Then we get to the Iron Hands. So yes, there are things like the Medusan Immortals, which are beautiful models, and you can use a lot of bits for characters, same with the Gorgons. But I've picked the Legion Mark III squad. This squad is actually lacking in iconography, apart from some Iron Hand symbols on the left shoulder pad. So what that says to me is this is conversion fodder, not just for their legion, but for multiple legions. I used this squad extensively in my Iron Warriors force, so a lot of the HQs and some of my Iron Havoc squads are made using these guys' bodies. And the reason why, it's simple. You look at that chainmail hanging from the waist, gears and cogs on the armor, very Iron Warriors. It's only a few hazard stripes away from it. So it fulfills multiple legions right there. The Bionics and such, you could use these guys to represent Mortifactors, who are a console who don't have miniatures. Siegebreaker's not a bad one. Of course, Forge Lord's a good one. Put a servo harness onto one of these miniatures. Option is there, guys. Moving away from that, yes, Primaris bits. In this case, Iron Hands Primaris bits. So the bare heads would work great on Terminators. A lot of the gauges and dials and such hanging from the waist would help to establish a character as well. The little iron hand on the little shields, perfect. Put it on the shoulder of a Terminator armored character, something like that, just to add a little bit of depth to them. And even the purity seals with the cogs on them, perfect option for marking out a model as an Oath of Moment that's stylized to the Iron Hands. And the Bionic Arm. Probably a little bit big for power armored troops, but on Terminators it would be perfect. So, something you can do with that. It leads into this guy, the Ironfather Phyros. This miniature here has a host of parts that can be used elsewhere. You could use the axe on a Terminator model, for instance. You could maybe just use the axe head on someone. You can take the heavy bolter looking unit off the back of him, put it onto another console. You could take the servo harness off and put it completely onto a Tech Marine, maybe turn that heavy bolter into a conversion beamer. Again, your imagination is your limitation here. Even just that servo arm taken off this miniature and put on something like a Gorgon Terminator or a Tartarus Terminator will give you a completely different Ironfather to the Cataphractii one you're lumped with now. Blood Angels, of course, you get a range of characters in here who are all like Tycho, Dante, the Chapel Myth Jump Pack, Corublo, Astorath, and Lamartis. They're all pretty much 30k ready. Yeah, a little bit of Mark 8 like Lamarti's legs. It's Mark 5. Just call it Mark 5, pretend. Change out those shoulder pads for some studs, it will look just like Mark 5 power armor, I can assure you. 30k ready, and someone like Lamarti's as well, because of the way Mark 5 power armor has the little crossing cables and that over the chest anyway, it looks kind of like the buckles on that harness that holds on his jump pack. You could change that jump pack out or magnetize it. He could be on foot. Cut the hand off at the wrist on the left hand side. You could put a blade in there or a hammer or something like that. Even change the arm out for a power fist. You could change the bolt pistol to a plasma pistol. Lots you can do, and that applies to most of the Blood Angels range. Then we get to the World Eaters Lord, Zhufor. So Zhufor, perfect choice if you're going to make a World Eaters character. It already has all the iconography on it, and it doesn't matter that he's got a big corn symbol emblazoned on the chest. You could cut away the corn symbol on the back of the armor, or turn it into some sort of stylized iron halo. Lots you can do with it. you could change out the arms for Tartarus or Cataphractii arms. Whichever arms you change it to, that's the armor it'll actually look like, because the miniature doesn't really show too much to say that it is Indomitus because it's so stylized. So perfect right there. And of course, you don't feel like you have to keep either of the weapons he comes with, because if you do change out the arms to something like Cataphractii or Tartarus, you could take the hand or Power Fist, so that's the axe hand or the Power Fist, spread them out on other Terminator characters within your force to create more unique looks for them. Those skulls on the Power Fist, for instance, would look excellent in a Night Lord's army, holding up all these severed heads, or even a brutal Sons of Horus character. And you don't even need to put the totems on the backpack with the skulls and the Commissar and things like that. So you get rid of those, change the arms out for 30k arms, it will look almost perfect as a 30k console. And I actually really love the head. That head would suit so many different forces. Alright, then of course Ultramarines. So Cassius, the old model, he's still in Mark IV power armor. It's a really good choice for a 30k chaplain. Now, is it perfect? No, he's got the little Tyrannid skin book. Yeah, okay. There's things you could say that aren't perfect about it, but like anything on this list, it could be explained away. That's a Megarachnid hide that his book is made out of. Use your imagination. Then Sergeant Talion. So, this one could almost be used again for pretty much any legion. You want a Vigilator who's in Scout armor or Recon armor instead of Power armor. Hey, here's one for you right here. File off the Ultramarine symbol on the shoulder and on the wrist and on the rifle. Congratulations, he's no longer an Ultramarine. Anyone could use it. From there, the Ultramarines Honor Guard. Very blingy, very stylized Ultramarines, but as you can see, 3 of the miniatures are 30k ready. The banner, the left hand side Axeman, and the champion at the front are all in either Mark 6 or Mark 4 power armor. These are HQ choices without even needing conversion. So why not utilize them? That's a Ultramarine Legatine axe on the guy on the left there, I'm pretty sure, who's holding out that power axe. The guy at the back, I'm pretty sure that's a Legion Ancient or a Legion Herald. That picture on the back of an Ultramarine slaying a Tyrannid, no, he is slaying just some random Xenos species. Could be the Hrad, who knows. And of course the guy at the front, do with as you so wish. They're very blingy, yes, but then look at the units that they hang around with. Units like Invictus Suzerain. They're going to blend right in, trust me. Alright. And after that, of course, Sergeant Cronus. So another one who's actually pretty easy to convert for other legions. The Ultra icon on the middle of the chest can actually be filed off relatively easy. You can clean the entire chest off and scalpel off the U on the tassets. That's the sort of plates that hang down the front of the body there. File off those Ultra symbols. All of a sudden, this is a Siege Breaker console for multiple legions. Someone like Castraman Orth, the special character of the Iron Hands, who is a tank commander. Here you go. Here's your basis for him, because you get Cronus on foot, and you also get the Cronus tank commander. Hey, it's the same miniature, so you could potentially turn this into Castraman Orth for your Iron Hands force. Then we get to your Exalted Sorcerers. So these guys work really well for the Thousand Suns. Just pick the parts that aren't too mutated on them. So the guy at the back there, for example, is totally fine, no mutations at all until you get to the right arm. So don't put that right arm on him, and you have a fantastic 30k character. You can take things like the staves, the backpacks, the helmets, intersperse them throughout your force to create conversions and characters. It will look excellent. I can quite assure you, I've done it myself. Adam down here, who hosts Preferred Enemy, you would have seen Adam Trutevsky's work on, I think he was Australia's youngest Golden Demon winner. Lovely guy. He's done some of the most beautiful Thousand Suns you've ever seen, and he utilised a lot of these kits, and it is gorgeous. From there, the Word Bearers. So here you go. This right here is pretty much just ready to be utilised in your force. But don't just think it has to be word bearers. The crazy companions here could be utilized in other forces. They could be used as objectives. They could be used in Astra Militarum Force. They could be used as wound markers for all it matters on the character. What you can do here, it's a crazy word bearers character, sure, but kind of looks like he's wearing Mark 6 power armor, and he's no weirder for 30k purposes than Erebus is, so why not use him? And to round it out, the Raven Guard Primaris. Not a huge choice of useful bits here, but you can cut the scopes off that are placed in the lower half of the frame and put them onto different weapons just to mark out your guys as a little bit more tactical. But you have all these totems and fetishes, all the bird's feet, the little crow's heads, the feathers. They are a fantastic way of spreading just a little bit of flavor throughout the army. A miniature like, I don't know, let's say one of these Master of the Chapter, doesn't look very Raven Guard. But you take this guy on the bottom with the Thunderhammer, give him a Mark 6 helmet, the beaky helmet, and then hang a feather and a bird's head from his belt. He'll feel an awful lot more like a Raven Guard with just those tiny little changes. So anyway, this is the first one of these in this new series of Getting Started videos. Some of you would have seen these before. I've mentioned quite a few of these, probably half of these I've mentioned before in previous videos I've done on this topic. But there you go, they're your options. Like I said before, 40k miniatures and Forge World miniatures are not for everyone, but they do apply to a certain group of people, people who don't have the option of going outside of those boundaries, especially people who want to be playing in stores, because the rules have started to get so strict around what you can and can't use within Games Workshop stores. People are going to be forced, if they play in those environments, to go down the route of having used only Games Workshop / Forge World parts. This video is more for them. For the rest of you who are not afraid of things like 3D printing or third-party parts, we will go into that. They will have their own dedicated episodes. So, to fill in this series and bide some time until then, that's what these videos are for. Anyway, I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, hope you got something out of it, and I'll catch you all on the next one.